So this is the process of what we're doing here at BOE. We recognize and support your right to come register your concern and appeal the appraisals that are given. Our duty is to both hear both sides and make a determination based upon the facts as we see them. The assessor must assess value at market value on all properties in Bannock County. The appeal process gives the property owner the chance to appeal this said value before this board. If for some reason the decision rendered does not meet with your satisfaction, we encourage you to file an appeal with the State Board of Tax Appeals. Another option available to you is relief through the district courts. It is imperative that you focus on property valuation, not on protesting your taxes, which will help with the process. We'll go ahead and have our Deputy Clerk, Nancy Allen, swear the participants in. So I'm going to turn 3 minutes over to you, and then we'll be able to ask some questions, and then we allow the appraisers table 3 minutes, and then we'll ask questions, and then we'll turn 2 minutes back over to final comments, and then the board will discuss and make a decision. So go ahead and state your full name.
My name is Hal Jones. This is my wife.
Okay.
And she's been probably more involved in this process last year as well as this year, so if it's okay, can both of us take part?
Yes. That's why we swore you both in.
Okay. One of the questions that I have, and it's not a concern, is what is the difference between property in Downey and property out of Downey? We're talking about my property there by my mother's house. So if someone, for example, has 500 acres up the canyon that they own, that they do nothing with, does the property value increase at the same rate as the property inside Downey, even though it's in Bannock County? If someone owns 500 acres of property up the canyon, they do nothing with it, does their property value increase the same?
Yes. It may or it may not. It depends upon what use is. When you say does nothing for it, is it grazing land? Grazing land then is regulated at a different rate. There could be years where the state, for those things could change. In Downey, you may have different things based upon a multitude of factors. So yes and no. They could be the same, they could be different, they could be higher. So it's like comparing baseballs and oranges.
Right, no, I understand that, but given the same usage of property, if someone owns, say, 1,000 acres, and if their property value goes up 30% one year, 30% the next year, and 20% the next year, is that,
Again, ag lands would be different than internal lands. You could be grazing cattle inside the city limits of Downey and grazing cattle outside the city limits of Downey, and while they're the same function, they are different in classification, use, and other things.
I see. So property that's not being used at all, which is my concern about the land that I own in Downey, it's not grazed land. It's not. It's got kind of a partial fence around it. There's no electricity. There's no water. There's none available unless of course you can have it plumbed in if you want to. But there's nothing on it, and so I just don't understand it. You can't with no water, with no. I just don't understand.
And that's the basis of your appeal.
That is
correct.
That is. I'm just saying that there's nothing we can do at this point with that property.
So instead of a big question and answer process here, we just need to say what your appeal is.
I see.
And then we'll have questions. We can answer some questions using the assessor's office.
Okay, that's my concern with that.
Okay.
We're just, it went up 33%. We went through this last year because it went up 50%. And we appealed it and got it back down, and we understand the value of property goes up. Now it's gone up 33% this year, approximately 33%. and there is nothing there. It is useless at this point. And it's basically the same thing that we went through last year.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Answer some of them questions?
I do have one question for the board, or for the appellants for the board. Has there been any recent determinations by planning and zoning about a lack of ability to build on the parcel? Anything that would inhibit or prohibit any development to the parcel?
Not that I know of. I don't know if it has a building right or not. That's what you're asking.
And if the appellant has received any recent determinations on it?
We have not received any information.
No more questions.
Okay, you're 3 minutes.
Thank you. So in reviewing this parcel, when we are looking at bare land, we are primarily looking at what does bare land sell for in the area, and then if we have an abundance of sales that support which way the market's going, that's certainly the way we take it. One of the things to address one of the appellant's points is we do break down those values based on its type of use. Is it being used agriculturally, residentially, commercially? Those are the 3 primary ones that we run into. And so when we consider all of that information, we do work to say, what has the average land price done in any given area? We do deal a lot with questions on the value of bare land. And so the question is, can anything be done? And so what we have found in our conversations with both property owners, various cities, our own counties, planning and zoning, is that nearly every property is buildable. It's just what are the barriers to achieve that? And so with a lot of the land in Downey, we did identify a potential negative land influence, and we actually, I believe during the discussions the appellant had with our appraisers, we did recommend lowering that value on the land from $44,224 down to $37,499. There were some questions that arose last summer regarding buildable lots in the Downey area, and so they applied that same factor until a deeper study can be done. So our recommendation would be that we go with that lowered value of $37,499.
Okay. Comments back?
I'll point of order. No, and I understand and I appreciate that. I guess one of the questions that I would have would be, if something were to be developed on that land, if I was to go down there and build a home, then I can understand the property values increasing at this point. I mean, that would happen if the property was improved on, correct? But at this point, it's just basically a 15% increase. Is that kind of across the board? Is that kind of how you, okay.
It really is.
I have a point of information that I need to understand, because I have parcel viewer up and I'm looking at the parcel, and the parcel that's directly behind it, there looks like an easement land, and there's another parcel directly behind it ending in 7100. It's 6.5 acres, and it has it's in the city, so it should not have any kind of ag exemptions applied to it because it's in the city. You can't have an ag exemption in the city, and it's assessed at $2,195 for 6 acres. And so that to me, there's a large discrepancy of what are we doing and why are we doing that? Because that's, again, kind of the argument that was made last year. It took me a minute to get fired up and remember what all we were doing last year.
Right.
Is that we have some parcels, and now there's some contiguity, it looks like, with the owner of that parcel to the south, but it falls out of the city on one side and not in the city on the other side. And I'm just curious of why the parcel that shares the southern boundary of this parcel, it's listed as 6.5 acres, has a land value of $2,195.
Can I just make one comment? The city, and I think it was a year and a half, 2 years ago, they changed it to where you can't even put animals back there. You can't put horses or anything. In order to do that, you have to go get approval from the city, and they have to take it through the process. So it's just dead land. You can't do anything with it. And I have a son that owns a construction company, and I asked him the other day, I said, what can we do could we even sell lots back there? And he said, Mom, if you can't if you think you're gonna do that, get rid of it, because you can't. There's not enough room back there on that to put roadways and everything back there. So it's,
Commissioner Huff, any comments?
No, I'm just looking like Commissioner Tubby at the parcel viewer, all the land surrounding it, and it is, like he says, $2,000 for 6 acres, 7 acres. So
I mean, I get that if we have some scheduling of land, but there's some serious, and like I said, now, you can, on 8 acres, they can do stuff that allows development and building, but it has to be in concert with Downey's ordinances, rules, and regulations. And that's why I say when there's a parcel that's 6.5 acres directly behind it at $2,000, and there is contiguity with the landowner, but one is in the city and one is out of the city, the contiguity should not matter then to change the value that drastically. So if we have 6 acres at $2,000 total land value, and so you're, $400 something an acre, and then we have 8 acres, it's $39,000. I have a real, something's wrong.
What does that parcel end with that you were?
That parcel ends in 7100. It's directly to the south of the subject property. 6.5 acres.
So with what you said earlier, there may be an issue of ag land that has not yet been removed within city limits, because this parcel currently is classified as ag land, the one ending in 7100. So that's why you have that lower value.
Which you can't have in a municipality.
county property inside Downey.
It's in Downey, and Downey does not allow grazing. And you can't have a, because I know a lot of people in the city of Pocatello that would love an ag exemption.
Because that's something that we're probably going to need to review, because we have a current ag app on file from them. And like you were saying, if the city won't allow any of that, then we will need to go through and find how many others are there and then remove those.
Well, and so the question would be then, can you graze on your ground?
no. They
Because you don't have
told
water
us-
rights.
They told us that there was an ordinance put in place that we could not put horses back there. We wouldn't anyway, but because there's no water or anything, there's no well.
You can't put cattle back there.
And we can't put anything back there. We would have to go to the city and get special approval.
And
So
I
there's
don't-
nothing.
I think it's like a grandfather thing. If people already have them there, they're not gonna make them take them away, but I think that as far as
And I would say that we are outside of our purview of the BOE to try and determine land use of cattle inside the city, but I would say that there is something, I would say that we leave on this parcel, because this is something that it's going to take some more investigation and things that are there. I would say that we leave, I'll just make a motion, parcel RPRMBA 1000400 at last year's BOE value of 31,000.
What was that parcel number?
Or excuse me, that was the wrong parcel. That was the next one. Sorry, I just clicked on the wrong one. My bad. I got multiples up here on my computer. This is what happens when Commissioner Covey's doing multiple things, reading multiple parcels. RPRDCPD 006001. Last year's BOE of 31,724 is what it was at last year, is what we assessed it. And I would leave it there until we determine what's going on in Downey.
You have a motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. So
Great.
we've adjusted it back to last year's value.
okay, will we be informed when you guys come to?
You'll get a written decision of these findings today. And then the rest internal of Downey, you guys need to start figuring that out, because that's not on us. I mean, appraisers will look at the other,
Right.
I'm sure as they review Downey and figure out what's going on there, it's a huge undertaking.
So
Oh,
do
I'm
you
sure.
go to a city meeting? Is that how we get involved, or
You guys
how
would
do
have
we
to
do it?
contact the city of Downey and find out what exactly is going on with that parcel. And you
Okay.
need to figure out what is there, because if they do have a determination that it's allowed or is not allowed or whatever is allowed, your
Okay.
values can change.
We'll talk to the mayor, and I know they have monthly
Yes.
council meetings, so, okay, great.
All right, and you are also representing Ruth Jones,
I am, yeah. She.
Parcel.
Oh, I'm sorry.
parcel RPRDCPD 006002. Okay, you got your 3 minutes.
Okay, I guess you probably have a copy of the issues that we had. And she told me that last year she was concerned about her taxes. She could not get through, whether it was, I don't know if she tried at a bad time, but she tried, calling the court, the county, I don't know. Anyway, so let me read again what we wrote on her appeal form. And this was in her words. She said, I'm 89 years old and I will live alone and on a very limited income and cannot afford to pay more in taxes, which I'm sure you hear that every single day of your life. The property is in poor condition as I can't maintain it as I would like. Please help. Basically, that is just an appeal from her to have someone go and reevaluate the condition of the property that she actually has her home on. She has a couple of outbuildings that are falling apart. She does her best to keep the grass green in the front, but the back is like the Mojave Desert. It's in very much disrepair, and I can't imagine that the property value is more than it was last year. And I think you can see she actually, the taxpayer's estimate of the market value, she decreased that from what it was last year because she just doesn't think that it's worth that much. So that's her only concern. And she said, if you can do something, do something. If you can't, then she understands.
Okay. Questions?
No questions.
Okay, we'll turn 3 minutes over to the assessor.
Thank you. So when our appraisers looked at this for this year's pre-BOE conversations that we've had with homeowners, we actually found this particular parcel has not yet been drawn in and costed according to our new systems. Doing so would have actually raised the value of the home $50,000 higher than it's currently assessed at. So our recommendation was that we leave it at its trended value for this year, and then next year when it is drawn in, that we also reassess at that time any condition issues that we need to on the home itself. We have it as a fair quality home in average condition, and so if there are mitigating factors that we need to address as far as anything of the home's deferred maintenance, anything like that, we can take a look at that for next year.
Okay. Comment? No? Commissioners?
So are you proposing, Jason, leaving it at the price of $159,500 or last
Yes.
year's?
Yeah, the $159,534.
What was the correction for 138? Again, it changed. We put it at BOE in 19 at 119. It came back on a correction at 138 because there was a costing trend applied to it.
So the 2020, every assessment in the county says correction. It just means that was the title given to all of the assessments last year. Every single one of them say correction on it.
All right.
Comment?
Again, this is another one of those, yes. The market varying right now, you're seeing houses selling for astronomical prices across everywhere. It is insane. If I ever thought I'd see this in my life in Bannock County, but it is happening right now. We have an issue right now going on. I would, and again, we're not here to discuss the taxing part, we're just here to discuss the valuation part. Knowing that it's not drawn in the system of current costing means it's taken into account everything. It would be in the negative benefit if you guys had it costed. So right now, I would make a motion on parcel RPRDCP D006002 to uphold the assessor's value at the $159,534.
Have a motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
What I would say though is you guys need to get with the assessor's office. They have property tax relief program though that your mother would qualify for and probably would have qualified for the last couple of years, which pretty much wipes off any taxes that she pays. So I really strongly encourage you guys that you need to do that, because I think the only thing that would be left on her property, as small as it is, would be the landfill fee of like $80.
So
How do we go about that?
she has the form and everything for you. She actually
Yeah.
has a pile in there, but you guys need to do that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you don't have the homeowner's exemption on there, so yeah.
That's why I was really surprised that there's not an exemption, like,
They don't have the homeowners exemption on.
Yeah.
Oh, which it is, all right.
okay, so homeowners
They have the
exemption.
homeowner.
Okay,
I was
homeowners
looking at the
exemption
wrong
is
They don't
going
have
up.
the
The
circuit breaker, whatever it's
Yeah.
called now.
homeowner's exemption is going up this year. The state adjusted that as well. And then there's also, but that program where your mother is retired, I can almost guarantee that she has a pretty good chance of qualifying for that program. So please make sure that that's taken care of.
Makes a big difference on
Okay,
that
great.
taxable
We'll
amount.
do that.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for
Thank
your
you.
time. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate
And
the work
hopefully,
that you
don't
do.
take this the wrong way, we don't see you next year.
Yeah.
But Downey we're figuring Downey out. Downey's got a whole,
Downey is Downey, yeah, that's a whole new world. How often are the properties actually looked at? I know that Bannock County is huge and you can't go every year.
so by
probably.
law, they have to do it physical once every 5 years. And then every year, the property must be adjusted to market value. So however
Circuit
that's
breaker.
done, whether that's done with,
Before this
whenever
Or
that's
this year.
done with.
But it hadn't been before.
year. Why?
A
We just
visual
wasn't for
inspection, a
this year.
drive-by,
She's already
but there's
done.
something that's done, and the market value adjustment is usually determined by analysis of the properties that they do see.
So what is
Because
the tax?
you should theoretically have 1/5 the properties in Downey assessed in person. So you should see some trending value. That's how they do that.
So if the market tanks and the homes,
It should come down.
it will come,
It-
okay.
it should-
I was
and-
just wondering if we're all stuck up there.
So they do devalue the property
Go ahead, take
if
it.
the trend goes that way. Okay.
Okay.
So Hal, do you know